You're listening to the most captivating podcast in iTunes. That's right, the Elite Man Podcast, where we turn average men into elite men every day. We interview the very best experts from the lifestyle, health, fitness, social, and even entrepreneurial worlds. And with their help, we give you some of the best advice on the planet. Subscribe now if you haven't already and enjoy the show. And oh yeah, if you really enjoy it, leave us a review. On today's episode number 279, entitled, How to Break Past Being Average and Become the Best Version of Yourself, I chat with Michael Bernoff. Michael Bernoff is a results coach, speaker, and best-selling author of the new book, Average Sucks. In today's episode, Michael talks about raising your performance to elite levels across all areas of your life. He breaks down the process of unlocking your true potential by changing your mindset, thought patterns, language, habits, and daily routines. Michael also talks about breaking past fear, gaining self-confidence, and overcoming the mediocrity and average mentality of today's world. If you're wondering how to break past being average and become truly elite, check this episode out now. You are going to love it. Listen, guys, here's the God's honest truth. We're living in a chaotic time. You already know this. However, what you may not already know is that we're also living in a censorship time. A lot of good information is being suppressed. A lot of good information is being censored. You can look no further than the podcast episode we dropped several weeks back about the COVID-19 pandemic. That podcast episode was actually taken down in Spotify and a number of other platforms because they didn't like the information that we were talking about. Now, we only cover fair and balanced information on this show and try to give you a good holistic perspective on helping yourself, helping your family, and helping your loved ones. But for some reason, that information just doesn't align with some of the mainstream authorities out there who don't like that type of information. They don't like for you to be in charge of your health. They don't like for you to be in charge of your family's health. And for whatever reason, they try to suppress it. Now, I'm all about being an open book. I'm all about being fair, and I'm all about hearing all sides of a solution to a potential problem. But what I do hate most in life is being censored and having my opinion censored when I know I'm being fair and balanced. And that is one thing that honestly pisses me off, probably more than anything. And so with that information, I want you guys to sign up for the email list if you haven't done that. Make sure you go to elitemanmagazine.com/newsletter and sign up today, because no matter who censors us, all the information that you need is always going to be delivered through the email. We're always going to get the information, all the podcasts out to you. So if one platform goes down, we're always going to have the main platform at Elite Man Magazine. We're going to have the links to give you the episodes that you need. elitemanmagazine.com/newsletter is the number one place to sign up today, so you don't miss any of our episodes going forward. If they try to pull us down again, I guarantee you we will come back up and we will have those episodes ready for you. You may have even missed that original episode on COVID-19 if you listen to, say, Spotify or another platform that got taken down. But whatever the case, make sure you sign up for the newsletter so you don't miss anything else. Whether that's our YouTube videos, whether that's our podcasts, whether that's articles, whatever else, whatever information that you need will be delivered to you in your email address when you sign up for the Elite Man newsletter. So make sure you sign up for that now. Also, on that same token, you might as well follow us across the board. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube if you haven't done that yet. Follow me on Instagram at Justin Stenstrom if you haven't done that yet. Follow me on Facebook at Justin Stenstrom if you haven't done that yet. And join the Facebook group as well, the Elite Man Mastermind, if you haven't done that yet. Follow us across the board on all things, because one platform may take us down, but another platform is definitely going to have us. And if all the platforms decide to come together one day and ban all of our content, guess what? We're still going to find a way to get you that information that you need. The best way to get that information, though, is to join the newsletter, elitemanmagazine.com/newsletter today. All right, guys, we're live. It's Justin Stenstrom from Elite Man Magazine, and my guest today is Michael Bernoff, the author of the new book, Average Sucks. Michael, thanks for coming on the show, man.
I appreciate it, Justin. Thrilled to be here.
Yeah, dude, we just spent a few minutes talking. You sound like a really interesting dude, and you do so many cool things, but what would the main thing be that you'd say that you are as far as like a type of coach? I'm trying to figure it out myself. Like, you a mindset coach, performance coach, life coach? Like, what would you say you are?
It's always had the David Copperfield thing. How do you explain it? I would say if I would put it in a nutshell, that basically our whole ideology is that we believe that communication is the most underutilized and underdeveloped asset that we have as human beings. So we are masters in the art of using language and communication to navigate people's brains and their activities in the most effective ways. So we're the guys that get called in, me personally, to big corporations during things like the whole Corona thing, getting called into Fortune 100 companies to, rally up the troops, to professional athletes before big games, working with UFC fighters, to any human being, any business owner, anybody out there that like your show and your magazine that really wants to be elite at what it is they do.
Nice. And you mentioned too before that you train or he trains right next to Henry Cejudo, the double champ right now, right? That's pretty cool. You work with him at all?
Yeah, he's incredible. He's next door. He works out next door, so we pass each other, we see each other. We train at Neuroforce One at the gym right next door, and he's working on his championship, and I'm working on my keep my body where it needs to be in my 40s. But yeah, what we would share ideas. I remember giving him a little mindset tip. I know you mentioned Wim Hof. He was getting in the ice bath one day. He's like, Michael, how do I stay in this forever? So I gave him a couple of mindset techniques so he could stay in those extra couple minutes and really get himself revved up for a fight.
Nice. What'd you tell him?
Basically, a lot of times we have to turn off part of our turn off our physical part of our body. I think one of the biggest things that most people do is they physically induce pain because they communicate with themselves. They remind themselves how cold it is, what it is they're dealing with. So the big thing I showed him is how to actually disappear his thoughts. And I watched him do it. We didn't spend a lot of time doing it, but being able to learn how to distract yourself. Us as human beings are very good at being distracted while we're driving. We're good at being distracted. We're good at being distracted while we're, having a conversation with someone we love. But how do you learn how to be selectively distracted? So I talked to him a little bit about that. I can go way, way deep into that, but I'm gonna tell you, it's a whole conversation in itself. But learning how to use the same technique we would use that causes issues and problems in our lives to actually get ourselves through things.
Okay, cool. So out of all the past teachings and everything you learned in the past, like what are some of the practices that you have? What have you learned over the years, like study-wise, like modality-wise, to help people overcome different situations? Like in this case, is there something like NLP, something like things like that stick out?
Yeah, I'm one of the best in the world at neurolinguistic programming. I even invented our own subject matter called human interaction technology because I love NLP. But a lot of it took like 14 days to learn. It was a lot of main therapy based. So we have been studying and doing that for 17 years. I'm that guy that was 22 years old learning NLP back in the day with a room full of people that are CIA agents and people that are lawyers doing jury selection and everything. So I've been around that now 18 years right now. I've been around that material. So I would say NLP, transactional analysis, psychotherapy, hypnotic language patterns, all of that stuff's been our big abilities to assist people, because at the end of the day, everything comes down to influence. And whether it's somebody has major trauma they're dealing with or just needing to heal what holds them back, one of the things we believe, Justin, and we can take this any direction you want to go, but everything that you're dealing with in life is a series of pictures, sounds, and feelings if you're not currently dealing with it. And being able to manipulate those pictures, sounds, and feelings inside of your head is the ability to make anything you want in this world. And that's all we've been doing for years, as simple as that sounds.
Yeah. So you've come up with your own offshoot of NLP, is that right?
Yep.
How does it look like? Why is it different?
It's different because we call it human interaction technology. It takes pieces of NLP because I would say that it's NLP is basically code word for do shit that works. You know what I'm saying? That's really the code word of NLP. It's like whatever works, use it and do it. And the challenge is that there's a lot of modalities that people want to be able to use. So instead of just calling it NLP and being able to train and do NLP only, we developed something that offers the ability to do a multitude of things. So instead of like falling in one set of rules, we allowed ourselves to basically do whatever works. So it's something that we do. We got a 5-day program. We've certified thousands and thousands and thousands of people through it and all walks of life. And basically it's the best of the best of how to use communication to make your unconscious mind do what you want it to do.
Nice. It sounds pretty cool, man. I got to check that out.
It's really cool. I got to get you out. You got to get out to Phoenix one day and check it out. I'll blow your mind.
Yeah. And you're just saying too, Phoenix is one of the few places in the country that's actually not been hit too bad by the whole coronavirus right now, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that. One is it's 100 degrees. Number two, if that's the case. Number two is like we're very spread out. Like, Boston, you guys are on top of each other. Yeah. We have a large gap between houses. We're in the middle of a valley. It's just a different, I guess, place than it is in other places. I don't know, Phoenix, maybe we've got 8 million people, but the amount of cases we have, we're not as severe as places like New Jersey, where I'm from, or New York.
Yeah. Oh shit, dude. I gotta get out there, man, because it's starting to suck out here. With all
Whenever you're
those.
ready, man, it's gorgeous. We got a
Yeah.
beautiful institute out here. We can do events here in the building. Like we bought a building that we use as an institute that we can hold, hundreds of people in to do events.
Wow. So you're still doing events currently, or do you have
Yeah, we
anything
do
lined up?
events. Not currently not during the challenge. We're not doing events, but we're busier than ever, man. We pivoted as soon as I remember one of my teammates was in Colorado and he came back from the grocery store. He goes, "Dude, it's so scary out there, man. It's like Beirut. People got their masks on. They're scared. They're nervous." He's like, "What do we do?" And I'm like, "Well, what do we do best? We do mindset. So why don't we, gift and give as many people as we can our program and see what happens?" And we realized that during this challenge, I don't know why it takes chaos, challenges, and adversity. It's a chapter in my book. It talks about the death of adversity. But right now, adversity has got 7% of the world that I believe that we never would have had before that is open to mindset. Like my babysitter, Justin, when I was a kid, when I was 7, I had this lady babysit me. She's been following me online for a decade now, hasn't done a thing, but it took the coronavirus for her to reach out and go, "I'll take one of your programs because I'm home now." So it's crazy. My babysitter, my doctor, all kinds of people are actually paying attention because I don't think anybody right now is saying, "I wish I would have had another bottle of wine. I wish I would have went on one more trip." I think everybody's saying, "I wish I would have worked on my mindset, worked on my economics, built my better circle of influence." I think that's what everybody's saying right now.
Yeah, saying a lot of things like that, or taking care of themselves health wise a little better, and
Yep.
doing certain things like that. But what program did she get? What type of mindset was she interested in fixing or improving?
Yeah, her big thing is interesting. It was working on her communication. I mean, that's our big thing. Once I can get a human being to realize that communication has the ability to be the answer to anything. Before somebody pulls a trigger on themselves, it's whether it's harming themselves or it's drinking what they shouldn't drink or eating what they shouldn't eat. One of our biggest desires is if we can have people see communication as an answer and use language as an answer. It's amazing how many of us use the same strategies the news uses to manipulate us. We use them on ourselves to actually not allow ourselves to have the life we want. So she enrolled in one of our programs called Call to Action, which is 5 days from home. I've been doing it since '03, and it's literally 5 days, couple hours a day, working on you and realizing what makes you do what you do and how to get yourself to do what you want to do, understanding really basic psychological triggers we all have inside of ourselves.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and like you said, man, it's such a great time to do some of the things that you haven't done before, and everyone has a little extra time right now, and self-improvement I think is so important. I'm actually just picking up my Spanish because for years I put it
Nice.
off, and yeah, like even me, like I got a little extra time to do shit like that, and I'm like, fuck it, I might as well learn Spanish, like because I always kind of knew it a little bit, but I've never been fluent in it. So hopefully in a month or two I can be pretty good at it.
And see why wouldn't you do that? And that's the thing. I tell everyone all the time. I said as soon as this whole Corona thing hit, and what's interesting, and this will be very important for years to come on your show, is that we wound up getting extra time. We're not commuting as much, not flying as much, no late dinners, not going to happy hour. People got hours back in their day they never had before.
Yeah.
The challenge is the habit monsters are after you. Netflix is gunning for you. Disney wants to fill your brain. Nonsense wants to fill in. Real Corona beer wants your brain. You know what I mean? Vodka, everything else. And if you allocate appropriately those couple hours a day back, I believe, and this is crazy, you talk about elite. That's one of my favorite words in the world. I love it. Kind of funny. I went to elite hockey camp when I was a kid. I've been waiting to use that word in marketing. Did it. I've wanted to figure out where to put it in. You put it in.
Right.
And what's interesting is that our children, like if you do this right, they've got a chance. Like remember when you were a kid, like kids didn't make the team. Now everybody makes the team. Remember that like back in the old days?
Yeah.
Kids have adversity right now while they're home. They can't do the things they want to do. They're being told no. Things are difficult. And I believe, it's my hallucination, that in a 4-month period, over the summer, the extended summer, since the whole Corona thing, kids are going to go back to school in August out west, September back east, and they're going to make teams they never made before in sports. They're going to stand up to bullies in ways they never did before. They're going to get ADD gone, some of these kids, because they have dealt with crap that our lives have been so damn easy for the last 10, 20 years because Amazon and things have been so easy and life has just been so progressively simple that I truly believe this setback, outside of the pain and the anguish and the fear and the physical harm that's happened to people through the actual physical quote unquote virus, I believe anybody who's not been harmed by the physical virus has the ability to come back stronger as a human being and really deal with how all muscles in life are built through adversity.
Yeah, that's actually a hell of a point, man. I didn't even think of that, and I think you're right. And it's almost like a reset that was needed for a while,
Yep.
Overdue for a long period of time. We've been so spoiled the last 5-10 years especially, and
Yep.
a lot of the children especially, like coming up, like all they've been doing, and it kind of sucks because all they kind of have to do right now is stay inside, but all they've been doing the last few years especially is staying on smartphones and watch the TV shows and all this crap, the computers all day long. But now, like, when they go back and they have a lot of these things that they were missing, we're going to be thrown back into where we were, I think, 20, 30 years ago, where life was a lot different, and they're going to be missing a lot of those things, like hanging out with their friends and playing outside and going to parties and just like being kids as opposed to being 21st century kids.
It's back, man. I'm going to tell you, one of the weirdest things in the world, I get the chills when you tell me this, is like you and I grew up, sounds like pretty similar, back east, that kind of family and everything. And we used to have dinner together. We used to play outside, come home before the street lights, street hockey after school, play hockey. We used to, remember like you just have football games. Your kids would get injured, but we'd have fun, right?
Love it, yeah.
Playing tackle football, wrestle with each other,
Get
parties
fights,
out, get fights, but then hug each other and have a beer. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And let's go rough it up, right? Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about this is that world is back, and like I started allocating for myself. You talk about seeing things in above average way. I'm like, okay, we're not spending here, we're not spending there. Can't go here, can't go there. And my daughter's a figure skater. We put a synthetic ice skating rink in the backyard. I didn't even know they made one, right? But nice. Synthetic skating rink, which you can skate in the summer in Arizona, and I put a trampoline in the backyard. So we're in the pool after work. We're playing outside. It's like I truly feel like it's 1988. I'm back in New Jersey chasing fireflies in my backyard. It's like, where was that before? And I don't know if the powers that be meant to do that or the world, but it is really an interesting time right now. And I hope that when it doesn't just end, that people recognize that how do we merge the two worlds together. That's a big piece of what I talk about in my book, is like that world ended in 1995 and nobody recognized it. When Windows came out, it slowly just ended.
No, so true, man. It's 100% true. And I think we were going down a rabbit hole that we were never going to come out of. But this thing is, there's always a blessing in disguise. There's always that silver lining in anything, in any tragedy, any challenge, any adversity. You overcome that. There's always some good that you learn from that experience. And I think this, in the end, when it's all said and done, there's actually going to be a lot of good to come from it. Michael, going back to the concept of your book, that average sucks. As a middle-class man, as a middle-class child growing up, what was your type of mindset back then? Did you always have this belief in yourself that you were going to do great things, that you were going to be this, great mindset coach and help all these celebrities and stars? Or what led you down kind of the path that you're in now to being where you're at?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, and the answer is yes and no. And the reason I say that is I wanted my wife, when we went back to my house back in Jersey, my little room when I was a kid. It's kind of funny, a little teeny room. I got a big house now, but a little room when I was a kid. There was this like painting I made in 4th grade of like wanted to be a doctor, right, to help people. And then I realized later that takes school, and I'm not really a guy that loves school that much. My heart goes out to all the doctors who work so hard. That's amazing what they do. I've always had like that feeling in my heart. It's one of the reasons I wrote the book, is that I always had that feeling in my heart, like I wanted to achieve more and I knew I could do more, yet I didn't have an outlet to do it in. And I didn't know, I felt special my whole life. Like, let me ask you that, Justin, if you always your whole life, if you were to be really brutally honest and be modest at the same time, have you always known there was something special about you, like you just didn't know what to do with it?
Yeah, honestly, that's exactly how I felt.
Okay, I think everybody feels that way. Some of us get it beaten out of us with abuse. Some of us getting beaten out of us when we get broken up with or other stuff. But I think we all have that inside of ourselves, like that burning desire to do more. But then the challenge of growing in middle class is you have no outlet for it. Like my parents, I have incredible parents, but they were trained the way they trained me. So like I would be at the Short Hills Mall in New Jersey, which is equivalent to like hanging out with the Kennedy people, like by like back where you're at, like Kenny Bunk. Where the hell is that? Kenny Bunkport is where's not that's Maine, but where the hell do they live? They're
Nantucket or something. Or?
Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
So this is like the wealthy area of Jersey, and I'd be a valet, and I go, Mom, look at those fancy cars, Lexuses, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, even a Mercedes, right? A little one, a 2 Series. And she'd say, those are nice, but they're not for people like us. And she didn't mean it. And then my whole life, always put myself in a box and thought they can and I can't. So like, I remember the physical fitness test when we were kids? Remember that whole test?
Yeah. Sure.
So I'm a kid and I'm a lanky, tall kid, right? Everyone's got their abilities, right? And they go, hey, time to do a pull-up. And I'm like, no problem. This will be easy. And then I realized I couldn't do one very quickly because I had no back muscles, right? And my teacher just reminded me like, all right, Michael, maybe these aren't for you. And then some other kid came up, one of the wrestlers, smaller kid, he did like 30 in a row. And I realized early in life, I didn't recognize it. I built a box for myself and I'm like, this is for them. This is for me. I can do that. They do this. And I just thought, you go through life and you are who you are and you get what you get. And my parents always told me, work hard, be a good person. And I applied that to life and business and I failed miserably. What a silly concept. Work hard and be a good person. It's got to be a better plan than that.
No, seriously. So what eventually changed in your life to change your mindset and then actually start going after the things that you wanted?
The biggest thing that changed me, I always had that desire that I wanted more. And I would say like the most pivotal moment is I went to Arizona State and went to college. Craziest story in the world. I shouldn't even been at the school. I was supposed to go to, this is funny. I was supposed to go to, my parents hired a special guidance counselor for kids with ADD because they told me I had ADD when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
And they were supposed to send me to University of Arizona. Instead, they sent me to the largest party school in the world, right? What's the stupidest move, right? And I'm at Arizona State in the 90s, right? And I didn't do well my first couple of years. So I failed out. Not failed out. I got an academic probation. And I went to junior college. And I had a really good professor in business class. And he said, here's a list of books. Please read one. And I'm not going to read books. You kidding me, man? I don't read. And one of the books was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I'm like, really? I'm single. I'm a guy. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm 19. Sounds interesting. And you know what that book got me? I don't think I ever even finished it. But it got me to realize you can get better at anything. And I had no idea until that day that you could learn yourself better. That was the most pivotal moment of my life. It wasn't even the book. It was the idea of the book, that a human being can actually change who they are and learn themselves into being anything they want to be.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. So that was basically your introduction into the whole self-help world.
Boom, right there. Failing out of school, negativity, adversity, and then going to junior college, which is a great gift, which I probably should have started there in the first place because I wasn't ready yet, and I highly recommend that. And then I get that book, and then I'm like, where has this been my whole life? And it was crazy. I would tell people about it. Nobody wanted to hear it. And the reason why is the majority of the world, especially the world I grew up in, believe that you are what you are, you get what you get, and maybe you work hard out of it. They had no idea.
So that's really what the whole concept is, too. Average sucks is for the majority of people out there. And you said there's even some take, because I want to read the book, too. You sent a copy. I'm pumped to read it.
Yes.
But the majority of people out there believe this philosophy. They believe that they're going to be average. They believe that there's one life for them. There's things that they can do, and then there's one life for other people, and other people can do them. But they don't realize that they can actually tap into that other side and become one of those successful people, the people that go after the things they want and actually achieve incredible things.
Yeah, this is the crazy thing about the average sucks. So I wear this shirt, right, all the time at airports. People come up to me, oh, man, dude, you're right, man, average sucks. And I always say to them, do you know what it means? And they're like, oh, yeah, dude, I'm better than you, or you're better than me, and screw everybody that's average. I said, it doesn't mean that. What it really means, Justin, this is crazy. You're going to love this, is that here's a little side note to the book to get you excited about it, is that what average sucks is that every human being in life has an average of what they do on a regular basis. Like they get an average, they can bench press. They get an average that they save every year. People make about the same amount of money. They have sex about the same amount of times every year. Do you know what I'm saying? They do about the same thing every year without even trying. They have an automatic that they have. So your natural tendency in life is to be your average. Here's the problem. Remember when I said about 10, 15 minutes ago that I've had that feeling in my life that I've always knew I could do more? Yeah. Your average and what you're capable of have nothing to do with each other. So when I say average sucks, what I mean by that is your average or your average is your problem. And when I tell people you're average in front of 1,000 people or 10,000 people on stage, I watch these people, high functioning billionaires, millionaires, people in the movie business, all kinds of look at me like I'm nuts. And I said, you're average. That's your problem. I'm not calling them average. What I'm saying is you have an average, and if you want to change your life, we have to physically change what your average is, because we all have a natural pull to be what our average is. It's scary as hell, and it's also exciting when you learn how to change it and have the average you want.
Yeah, I love that concept, man. And actually, it's sort of similar to the definition I tell people when it comes to Elite Man Magazine, Elite Man podcast. It's actually really not about comparing yourself to other people and being this elite performer. Although many of the people who listen to the show, follow the content, are elite performers in life. It's actually about being your best version of yourself, like your best performer, your best.
Yes.
It's really, you can translate best for elite because it's not comparing yourself to other people, but actually comparing yourself to yourself and being the best version of yourself.
That's the whole concept. I mean, we're speaking the same language. I love that you're doing this. I love what you got going on. And what's exciting about it is, from the magazine and from the show here, what's fascinating about it is, I mean, our whole purpose of life, and this is at least my belief, and it's what I say to be true, is that the total realization of your capacity. Like, I had a guy years ago come up to me and he poked me, right? This guy, and he's like, dude, how tall are you? And I'm like, I'm 6'6". He goes, why don't you start acting like it? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, dude, you play your life like you're 5'11". And then I realized he's right. I was getting away with being average, and I didn't realize that our biggest challenge in life is success. And when somebody actually gets some relative decent success in life, make 6 figures, make $1 million, make a $10 million company, make the baseball team, get married, whatever it is, we settle in. And what happens when we settle in, the world has always a natural desire to have inflation, like where things, what was good once will not be good a year from now, whether it's push-ups, whether it's how much you give into your marriage or your relationship or your business or whatever. What was once is not good enough tomorrow. And so if human beings would accept that you have to always be stretching your average or you're going to get knocked off, then you get a fully functioning, incredible life. This is where depression comes from. People get upset because they're sitting still. I never met a man or woman in the middle of doing push-ups, in the middle of a Spartan race. I do Spartan races. I never met anybody in the middle of one that was depressed, ever.
Yeah.
Because you're moving.
That's true. Yeah.
Prozac is not buying advertising space at Joe DeSena's Spartan race. They're not doing it.
Yeah, it's so true. And these people that finish too, when they do eventually get to the finish line, they feel fucking incredible, like on top of the world.
You ever done one?
Yeah, I've done a bunch. I've done probably like a dozen Spartan races
Really?
And a couple other obstacle courses. Never did a Tough Mudder, but I did a few of the other ones. I can't think of the names. But yeah, they're awesome, dude. I've done a ton. There've been a bunch in Massachusetts. I went to Florida a couple times for some. I was in Pennsylvania once. I did one in Maine. It was like the Ultra
you did
Beast
the big
or
one.
something. Yeah, it was like
the one at his house or whatever it was. Yeah, in Maine.
It was like 14 miles uphill, up all the mountains and all that shit, and carrying a bunch of crap, and it was fucking tough. That was the hardest.
It redefines your average, and then the next day you're going to work, and everyone's like, it's no big deal. Like the reason I do these things is I got a chapter in my book called "The Death of Adversity," and how when we were kids growing up, man, you had to wait for things. Like, you remember like ordering something off TV and having to wait 10 to 15 days?
Oh yeah.
My daughter, if she pushes return on or enter on something when she was 3, she's running to the front door on Amazon wondering why it's not there. The crazy side of that is that when you do something outside of your norm, you add unnatural adversity to your life. And the only way we grow as human beings is to accelerate how much adversity we have. So if I'd say any good that's come out of this whole Corona thing is adversity showed up in human beings' lives again. Because if this was 1975 and kids are coming back in body bags from Vietnam and neighbors' kids have got legs, like issues and problems and fear and all that kind of stuff, 90 days or whatever it is of like stay at home, it would be like, please, thank you. You know what I mean? It's just everything's based on proportion.
Yeah. Let me ask you this though, and I want to dive into the process that you talk about of overcoming your average and figuring out your. I want to do that in a second, but I do want to ask you first: is there ever a problem that you come across with, say, people who are like, for me, for instance, I'm always pushing for more, always shooting to be elite, always shooting for more success, more this, more that. Do you ever find a process when you come across people like me who it's tough to find the balance of being happy but also pushing for more. You get what I'm saying? Like it's
Yep.
good to be happy and doing what you're doing and enjoying it, but also it's almost like you succeed and it's like I want the next thing. This isn't good enough. I want the next. Like where's that balance?
Okay. Well, a lot of it comes down to, I'm going to remove the word balance for a minute because I believe we live in a world that doesn't really have balance. I don't think it's possible to really balance. So I've given that one up years ago. I got a better way of looking at it. So just throw that one out. I don't think Buddha found it. I'm not going to find it. But what I have found is definition. So let me ask you a question. What is your definition, Justin? I might as well work with you right now, get a free session in. What's your definition of success, man? Like, how would you know that if Justin dominated his week or day, how does Justin succeed?
I guess just reaching as many people as possible, getting incredible feedback, emails, private DMs on Instagram, Facebook, and like say I put a podcast out in a week and then with that, within the next like 3 to 4 days, my inbox is flooded with people who just said that was a fucking incredible episode. It touched my heart. It did this. It helped me do that. Like those are the days that I in the weeks that I know I really crushed. Say, a week a podcast week or something like that.
Got it. Okay, so success and happiness, they live in the same, I'd say they live in the same house, right? For the most part, because success without happiness and happiness without success is just, they need to go together. So one of the things I recognize, and I even heard it in your language a minute ago, it's how we define success. So linkage words is the key to hypnosis, and it's the key to hypnotizing the brain to access the unconscious mind. So there's about 5 letters and 2 words that control everything, and one of them is and one is or. So when you said doing my show and getting feedback, basically you're saying one thing because you do your show and it's great and you get feedback. The challenge is, let's just say something comes up and it's illegal or impossible to do your show at that moment. If that's what's tied to your success, you're going to be beat down at that point. Am I correct about that?
Yeah.
Based on your rules? Okay. So by using or, like, let me give you an example. So let's just take Justin for an example. If Justin said having a great workout and moving people and getting great feedback and doing an incredible show and feeling on, it sounds like that's 5 things, but that's really one thing. Do you get that? Like all of that has to happen at once based on your definition. Mm-hmm. So what I've learned how to do is to flip that and take a guy like you and go, all right, Justin, here's some of the ways we succeed. In order to succeed, what Justin does is anytime he runs a race or lifts weights great or meets somebody cool or does a great show or gets great feedback or sends a great email or gets a great article or does a great guest or impacts his life or does more push-ups than he did the month before or finds baseball cards that he had when he was a kid and sells them. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What's amazing is people that have a multitude of ways to be successful, like hundreds of them that can happen independent of each other, never have that feeling of frustration because they're living a successful life versus having events that have to happen. Do you get the concept what I just said?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's you don't have to tie everything together into one and make sure that they all happen, but you actually have separate things that you can look on and be positive about when those things do happen.
Yes. For instance, if your mind is set that I have to be on the Patriots and I have to catch the ball because they're always in the friggin' big game, right? And I got to catch the ball during the Super Bowl. I'm a Giants fan. You know that doesn't work for me. And I got to catch the ball during the big game, right? If you don't catch the ball during the big game and your team wins, you'll necessarily be miserable, even if you'll be in the locker room because you set yourself up to lose. So what I always tell everybody is have multitude of ways to achieve the thing you want that you agree all will be a great thing for you. That's what elite people do. That's how you can rebound and not beat yourself up. So that's one of the techniques I use. Does that answer the question or did I just skirt it? If I did, I will literally go right back at it.
No, I think I get it. It's more about finding different areas of your life to succeed in. So when you do succeed in something, it's not like you're left empty because that's the only thing you were banking on. There's actually multiple things in your life to go after.
Yeah, like let me ask you a question. Do you want to succeed or be a successful person? They're 2 different things.
I don't know. It's a tough one. I'm trying to
think about it.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Who's your favorite football player?
Football player, I would say Tom Brady, even though he just
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Is Tom Brady successful or does he succeed? His dad sold me my life insurance. Put it that way.
I would say both. I don't know.
So he is a successful, like, remember the game where he just turned it around in the last like 3 minutes and just won the game or whatever the hell it was, 6 minutes, and like they thought they were going to lose a couple years ago. Remember that
Super Bowl one? Yeah.
Yeah, Super Bowl game. Boom, turned it around, won the game.
Yeah.
That is a man who succeeds at everything he does. Do you understand? Like literally, he sees himself as successful. So do you think that's tied to the result, or it's actually who he is as a human?
I think it is who he is as a human.
So what I teach people how to do is to make it who they are as people, and then the results don't matter.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I realize success is an emotion, not a result. It's a way of living.
Yeah. So he's always successful no matter what.
I think he sees himself that way, don't you?
Yeah, I would say so.
And we should all strive to do that because it doesn't really matter. Now, granted, you might have bad days. You might have a bad lift. You might have a bad tournament. You might have a bad day at the office. You might have a bad sales pitch or whatever it is. But what's amazing is if you have a multitude of ways to succeed, it depends on your definition. So for me, failure to me is so complicated to get. Like failure means I have to screw up for 6 months on end to feel like a failure. I just made it impossible, so I don't do it. It's too hard for me. I can't fail. It's too hard.
So do you ever get down when you mess things up, when you say get rejected, when you lose a client, when you fuck up royally in some way otherwise?
I get frustrated from time to time, but it lasts for a couple seconds. And the reason why is I've realized that the amount of intensity requires for me to be upset or to be pissed off is massive, meaning that like I've set up rules. See, everyone's got to realize you're in charge of your own encyclopedia and dictionary inside of your brain. So it just depends what that means. Like rejection to some people is somebody not being interested. Like rejection to me would be like literally I would need Oprah to rebuild her show. I met her a couple of weeks ago. I need her to rebuild her show, come back on the air, and let everybody know Michael Bernoff is useless to make me feel rejected. That's the intensity of rejection. Other than that, there's some people that maybe don't agree with me or they're not interested or maybe I said it incorrectly. Like I make it very hard to do specific things. Like depression requires being upset for a month versus other people, depressed could be like your show's not on TV tonight. I make it very complicated to not achieve the things. Most people make success hard and failure easy. Like most people, you know what failure is to most people? Not following through. I'm looking at my desk right now. There's 100 things I'm not going to follow through on today. If I got your rules, I am automatically a failure. So failure to me is not following through on the things that matter and hurting my family for months on end and forgetting how easy it is to be successful by just taking a couple steps in the right direction.
So how have you bulletproofed yourself from being depressed and like so many other people can fall into that trap when say they get rejected or they lose a job, they lose a promotion, they get dumped by a girlfriend, what are some of the things that you've done to bulletproof yourself from those types of things and having that depression sink over you? Because you'll probably, from what I hear from you, you are going to feel down for say a few moments or whatever, a few seconds, a few hours maybe at the most it sounds like, but how do you get past that so quickly?
Language. It's the most fascinating thing in the world. I'll give you an example right now. So let's take this whole Corona thing that went down, right? The news, the media, your governor. Who's your governor? Gets on TV. What's
Baker.
his name? Baker. Like him, don't like him, doesn't matter. I saw his speech, right? Yeah. Baker gets on there. He goes, hey, Boston, you guys, man, please stay in home. It would be a good idea. Stay home. That's what he basically said, right? Then your Boston Tribune or whatever you guys have basically said, Boston's on lockdown. The man never said lockdown. But the word lockdown scares the hell out of people, which makes you sit there confused. The word quarantine, like, Justin, you were never on quarantine. Like, you didn't go to Spain, did you? You weren't in Italy, were you?
No.
So you weren't on quarantine. You electively stayed home. Do you know that the word quarantine and the word lockdown sets off psychological triggers inside of your body that makes you really upset, really down, have to stare at that TV and it's a for-profit thing. They slow you down. So what I realized is the same language patterns the media uses, we've got the ability to use on ourselves. So what I recognized is to bulletproof myself, it all comes down to language. Like I remember years ago, a guy comes up to me, he goes, Michael, I've got chronic anxiety. And I just basically said, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do to help you. He's like, you're negative, Michael. Like, what do you mean I'm fucked? I'm like, you're in trouble. I go, I can't help you. He goes, what do you mean? What am I going to do? I said, listen, man, the only guy I can help is if you haven't learned how to use your emotions effectively and communicate with yourself effectively, I can help you with that, but I cannot help you with chronic anxiety because just the word chronic means forever and permanent. So my question is, if it's that you haven't learned how to communicate with your body yet and your mind, I can help you with that. The challenge is most people do not recognize that the word choices they use impact their physical results in their body because like it's like divorce, right? You ever met anyone divorced? They get divorced?
Yeah, my father.
Your father got divorced. How long ago?
Years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago.
Is he remarried?
No, he's got a
Okay.
long time girlfriend though.
Well, the funny thing is he sits there 15 years divorced. Divorce was one day in court, right?
Yeah.
He's not divorced, he's single, or he's back in a relationship. So when I look at divorce, I look at it like this. Here's what divorce is. It's languaged. It's a different version of a relationship with the same person. It's just a different relationship now. Or when someone dies, your relationship with that person changes. I still have a relationship with my grandma's not with us anymore. It's a different relationship with the same person. Death is going to make you miserable. I'm not saying that I'm saying they didn't leave us. I'm just saying, how long are you going to want to stay upset? So by using the word divorce, which has shame and doubt and confusion in its legal terms, bottom line is your dad has a different form of a relationship with the same person that's not the same anymore.
And so there's a lot of like NLP patterns that
Oh, yeah.
I remember reading Bandler's book, How to Get the Life You Want. I think that's the name of the book.
Good book.
Yeah, there's a lot of patterns for things like overcoming grief, overcoming
Yes.
relationships, loss. Do you use a lot of those things in your own life when you're trying to get past something, or have you just like kind
Yeah.
of done something different because you're so
I
good
make
at it?
I make them automatic. I mean, I decided a long time ago, like anyone that wants to be elite at anything makes the decision. They cross the bridge one day and they decide they're going to be the best in the world at what they do. They just make the statement, they say the thing, they do it. Just like you. I mean, you're not running an average show. You're not running an average magazine. You basically made a decision. I'm going to be great at this. Am I correct? I mean, I couldn't even prove you otherwise. If I said you're average, Justin, you'd throw a swing at me from Boston, right?
Yeah.
So you make a decision that day. So for me, I made a decision a while ago that I wasn't going to not just learn these things. I was going to use them, and I was going to use them to impact my life. So I use language on a regular basis to impact me. And I just decided one day, it's like, you know what, I'm going to be here for a while. I might as well enjoy my life. And I don't think anything bad enough. Like, we get one shot at this thing, life. Like, what benefit am I going to have? I couldn't think of one where being upset or being miserable was going to be worthwhile. But a lot of times we get attention for negative behavior, and it's a fascinating thing. Like, you talk about depression. I believe it's a fascinating way to connect with people. And if you ever want to bond with people, this is one of the things I talk about in my book. I said, if you ever want to bond with somebody, all you have to do is talk about what you don't want and what you do want. And those are very depressing things, like what you don't have and what you don't want to have. And then, or talk about other people. It's very easy conversations. Hard conversations, the ones we like to have about what doesn't exist yet in the world, those are the ones that light people up.
I think this is what you're saying too. It's like a lot of depressed people that are down. It's easy for them to connect and stay down on that level because it's so easy to just talk about all the shit they missed out on, the things they don't have, but it's such an unproductive way of communicating.
I mean, let me ask you this question. If you stopped complaining and wouldn't allow complaining in your life, how many friends would you have left?
Probably fucking none.
Exactly. So it would be you and me, and that's it, right? And for the other people we know. But the interesting thing is, complaining is a fast way. Because so here's an interesting concept, right? Your brain's natural tendency is to protect your current identity of how you live, right? So you vested your interest in this. Like, if you woke up tomorrow and you found out that podcasts and magazines were not as good as you could do, and you could be on the moon, right? In order to do that, you'd have to admit that what you've been doing is not a good idea anymore, which is hard for people to admit, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very scary for people. Our brain's natural tendency is to look for problems to avoid them in the future and understand them so we can avoid them. So human beings attach better to each other, almost like a drug, talking about what's wrong. This is why a show like Sons of Anarchy and Breaking Bad and Billions, things with negative connotations, really, really drive people, because Disney understood this years ago, that if you love Six Flags or you love Disney and you have a great time on a ride, you're going to tell like 3 people about it, man. You got a good time at the Super Bowl, you'll tell 3 people about it. You get beat up, you'll tell 100 people about it, and 1,000 people will listen. Nobody wants to hear about, like, if I told you that last year was one of the greatest years of my life, I got to spend more time with my family and connect with old friends, you'd be like, who cares? But if I told you it was because I had 2 funerals that I went to, you'd want to hear all about them. You don't care about how great things are. You want to hear about the dirt and the bad things. That's how people are. It's not negative. And you might say, not me, but the majority of the people would rather hear about the challenges than the successes.
How do you accept that? How do you go about having those conversations, communicating, and being cool with that with those conversations, even though it's not necessarily what you would like to have, Michael. Like the people in your life, the people in my life, you know, obviously you just asked, like a lot of people would actually be gone if we thought about it long and hard, but we still want to be around those people. How do we make it so the conversations are probably more productive and beneficial to both?
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. And it all comes down to choice. So we do a little something called create the environment you want. And part of it is you really can decide the type of people you want in your life. Like I meet the coolest people places I go. Like I get a guy comes by and helps me in the backyard from TaskRabbit the other day to building that rink we put in the backyard, build a little synthetic rink. And he comes by and he's an Alan Watts fan and he's into conspiracy stuff. And it's just crazy. Like that guy, the carpenter in my backyard did what's that race? The rogue, whatever that one that David Goggins did, the crazy 100-mile race. He did the 100-mile race. This guy's in my backyard. So I believe that if you want to build the environment you want, it takes intelligence. And so what I do, one of the things I do is instead of like appeasing the people in my life currently, I build the life that I want. So when I go to restaurants and stuff, I make friends with the manager. I get good service. I tip people. I go on Yelp and I recommend whenever I get great service. So I do a little thing called the karma circle, and I build the people in my life around me. And I make certain to take care of and spend time with the people I love because they might know a few other people too. So I have insulated myself with, I would say, 90% of the people I want in my life. And it's not like I get rid of negative people. It's just they don't affect me as much because I have so many incredible human beings in my life that I've built a world that allows me to have that. And also, I've got a series of rules. Like, Justin, life is about rules. This is an old thing I learned from NLP back in the day. Like, here's what I believe. I believe people are doing the best they have with what they've got. It just lets him off the hook. Like, I'm not frustrated anymore. The alcoholic is doing the best he's got with what he's got. My negative aunt does the best that she's got with what she's got. My parents watch the news 24/7. That's how they choose to live. I just let people be who they are. I don't try to change anybody, and I accept it. And then I just choose how much time I want to spend with them.
Yeah, I think I kind of do the same thing in a lot of ways. And to be honest, it doesn't really bother me when people are talking about negative shit like that. Is it probably would have in the past a lot more, but over the last few years, it's kind of more like I understand where they're coming from, and you know, I like being there to support them and kind of hear them out. So it doesn't really bother me as much anymore. But you know, it's still good to look for those types of people who can kind of give back more to you and sort of fit your mindset. I think better than some of the people in your past who may not necessarily. What else as far as the book goes? Average sucks. What else can you recommend as far as getting past your own average level and getting to that new level? Because I wanted to make sure I came back to that. Is there any other like tips, like day-to-day tips that people listening right now can take away?
Yeah, there's a ton of things I'd share from the book. And number one is you really got to understand what your average is. And I have a whole formula in the book for really dissecting what your actual average is. You know, it's the easiest read in the world. I mean, coming from a guy with ADD, I made it so anybody can read it in 2.5 hours. Do you know what I'm saying? It's super fun. It's super simple. You'll laugh. It's a joke. But if I were to say any tip that you can do to change your average is there's a couple little ideas that you have. Number one is doing what I call living over the wall. And what living over the wall is that one of the fastest ways to change your average is to do things in the life that you truly want to have. Like, for instance, a lot of us want to push our way through the wall. We want to work hard. They're running our heads into the wall. Instead of asking ourselves a question, like, let me ask you a question, Justin. What's one thing that you would love to be doing that you're currently not doing? Something a way you want to live 2-3 years from now?
I mean, honestly, with the pandemic going on, or just like before the whole pandemic
happened? Just in general in life.
I probably would want a second home in Florida at some point in the near future.
Okay, very good. Is that something in the cards at all right now?
At this moment, no.
Okay, but it's something you want, right?
Yeah.
So the key is, in order to make that happen, we can make dream boards, we can do all that stuff like everybody else and their mother does, but I'm not into any of that kind of stuff. What I would say is we need to start moving towards the things that we want in order to actually make that a reality for ourselves. So the question is, if you were to live into that, if you were to actually step over the wall and start activating that right now, what would have to happen for you to start activating that?
Probably just make more money, like double the income that's coming in right now, working on the business and just making it more profitable.
Got it. So in order to become more profitable, some things you need to do, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, you don't need to figure them out all right away, but there's things you could work on, correct? So your current identity will never let you to have that. It's almost like they pull your credit, they pull your cash, they pull it, they don't let you have it. That's the bank, right? But also your current identity is you identify as a guy that doesn't currently have that. So one of the ways to really start changing that identity is to start getting around some other people that live a little bit differently, that have two houses. I mean, how many friends do you know with two homes?
Close friends, none.
Okay, well, you think it'd be a good idea to get 5 or 7 of them?
Yeah, that'd be great.
You see what I'm saying? So that's not an absolute answer, but that's a piece of the puzzle that I'd say. Another big piece of the puzzle, if somebody wants to accelerate what their average is, number one is this is the biggest piece of the puzzle. This is like the number one thing, the hardest thing to do. And this changes everything. So anyone listening right now that's in a position where they want to change economic, health, whatever, the first step in changing everything in your life, and this is brutal, what you have to do, and it takes less than a second, is to accept that you're not where you want to be. Do you know how hard, Justin, that one step is? If you just looked in the mirror and go, like I say to sales guys all the time, how good are you at sales? Oh, I'm great. What'd you make last year? $150. I said, are you capable of more? Yeah, I think I could make more. Then you're not that great. You're good. You're not that great yet. You tell me you made 100 million last year, I'm gonna tell you you're great at sales, right? You made 150, congratulations. You're better than you used to be, but you're not where you wanna be. 3 things happen when you accept where you're not where you wanna be. This is a big piece of the book. When you accept you're not where you wanna be, 3 things happen. One is opportunity shows up in front of you. The house in Florida is a possibility. The bodybuilding champion, the supermodel that you wanna marry, guy, girl, whatever it is, all that stuff shows up, right? And all the opportunity shows up in front of you. And then immediately right afterwards, severe insecurity, because you have to accept that you have not done it yet. But then the path shows up as well. So when a human being sits down and just says to themselves, you know what, I'm not where I want to be. It's a very, very subtle conversation. I am not where it is that I want to be. The second you do that, you have an opportunity to move. But we lie to ourselves all the time because we think we're supposed to be positive instead of actually being honest. So you ask me hey, how things going? I'm going to say great, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be. If you can start getting comfortable admitting that regularly, what's going to happen is people will show up. Like my wife and I were talking the other day. We're like, why does nobody help us, man? Why does nobody reach out? Why is nobody recommending people to us? Why is it not happening? You know what I realized, Justin? Well, we have been playing the part of people that don't need help. You know how stupid that is? We've literally been acting like people that don't need help because we didn't want to bother anybody. Now what we're saying is, you know what? There are some things we need. We're not where we want to be. And you know what's happening? All the help's showing up. Our average is changing. The amount of help we're getting is changing.
Nice. What were you doing differently to act a certain way to make people think that you didn't need help? And what are you doing now instead?
People would ask me how things are going. I said, fantastic. And you need any help? No, not at all. We're good. Because I thought that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I literally thought that. I was, as human beings say, unsupportable. I wanted support, but I was unsupportable. So I couldn't even get good employees to help me because I acted like I didn't need any help.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues of a high achiever. That is an issue of an elite athlete. That is an issue with an elite person. They don't need anything, and that is where they fail.
Absolutely. I've done that myself so many times too, and it's only been the last couple of years where I've really, especially, trying to learn all these things on your own and trying to do so much as an entrepreneur can be really difficult to accept that you're not really good in different areas. You're not good in certain things, and to hire somebody else or ask for help or reach out and even pay someone to come and help you and coach you. It's like really difficult for a lot of people. It was for me for many years, and I'm just still trying to learn how to get past that.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And so you have a challenge asking people for help?
Yeah, for sure.
Is it that you physically can't ask them, or it feels uncomfortable?
I think it's more of not necessarily a pride thing, but more of I want to figure it out myself thing.
Got it. Yeah, no, so I used to want to figure things out myself, and this is fascinating. This is a great conversation we're having too. I love this. This is I could just talk to you for days, dude. I love your stuff.
Seriously.
The reason you want to figure it out yourself is your identity is tied up with that you, for whatever insecure reasons we all have as human beings, and I do that too to my wife. One of the biggest breakthroughs I had in my book is that I wanted to do it myself because school was hard for me, and I wanted to prove a point that I could do the book, and I worked with a very fancy person to help me with the editing, right, and figuring it out. And then I said to my wife about 8 years into not getting the book done, right? I said to it's funny to say, right? I said, will you read this with me? And you know what's funny is she read it with me and she helped me organize some thoughts and helped me get it out and all that kind of stuff and got it back with the publisher and everything like that. And what's amazing is one of the greatest things for a relationship is letting people help you is a gift to another person as much as it is to you. But this is why I wanted to figure it out myself, is that asking for help means that you're not good enough in your brain. It isn't accurate. It's not true. What it means is somebody may actually be able to help you and they may know more than you know. But unconsciously, we think we're not good enough. So that's a really big pain point as human beings, is like there's nothing more painful than thinking you're not good enough, dude. Like it's like that. It brings back the feeling of not getting picked in kickball, remember? It brings back all those feelings as children. So that's one of the challenges we have, and that's part of the part that keeps us average, is we have to realize as human beings, when we ask people, legitimate people that can really help us, it doesn't mean we're not good enough. What it really means is we're actually very intelligent, that there may be somebody that understands things we don't understand so we can get better and we can work on things that we're good at. But I get it, dude. The stubbornness we have is one of the greatest ways to fail in life, and it is one of the greatest ways to play small.
Yeah, and that reaching out and getting that help or that coaching or whatever it is that you need to improve in your life, whether that's business-wise or something else, I mean, that can be like, they can 10x your results like overnight and 10x the time it takes to get there. It really is an incredible way to do it. I want to wrap up in just a couple moments. It's been such an awesome interview, man. Like you said, we could probably just go on and keep talking for hours.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that when after we get rid of them. We'll just keep going.
Seriously, dude. Yeah, and I'd love to have you back on the show too at some point if you want to come back on. But you mentioned too, I'm looking through the notes earlier, and there's something popped up about a self-confidence crisis in the country. What is that all about? What does that stem from, and how do people get past that?
Yeah, I just think human beings, I think the genetic defect of the 21st century was lack of confidence and lack of self-esteem. And I think most people don't know who they are as people, and they're missing their identity. Like I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I even see it in my daughter. I got an 8-year-old now, and I got a 19-year-old. And what's interesting is when I was a little kid, I knew exactly who I was. I knew what I liked and what I didn't like. And I think everybody does. And then somewhere along the line, somebody comes into your life and they start giving you direction. This is why like 45-year-olds don't know who the hell they are, because you totally know your life. Like when you're a little kid, you know your favorite color, you know your favorite food, pizza, pink, blue, whatever it is, right? You know all your stuff, right? As an adult, you ask an adult what the favorite color is, they have no clue, right? They're like, oh, well, where are we putting the color? You know, where do you want to go eat? You know, who's coming? You know, am I going to eat again tomorrow? And then I think someone comes in our life, whether it's a priest or a rabbi or a doctor or a family, a friend, whatever it is, and they start teaching you how to live. And I think most people are operating off of a script that they were given randomly. Like I'll tell you, I was absent 2 days, Justin, in school that I know I was absent. Like I know I wasn't there. Number one is the day they taught success. Like, were you there that day? Because I missed that day at school. Were you there that day?
I missed that one too.
I missed that day. And I missed it. If they would have taught it, I would have taken it twice. I would have got study hall for it, right? And the other thing I missed is the day that they decided who I was and I bought into it. I think most people are being what they're not, and they're still operating off who they think they're supposed to be, an outdated script of their lives. And every day they wake up and they want things to be different, but then they ask themselves, who am I? And they keep on operating off of an old identity. So one of the big crises we have is that like we are working super hard to be like everybody else instead of being all of ourselves. That's how we change it, by really figuring out who we really are as people. That's one of the biggest things, is when you know who you really are and you act as much as possible of who you really are, the good, the bad, the ugly, that's where self-esteem comes from.
That's awesome, dude. Such a great point. And you're right. I think it goes right along with the conditioning and schooling, and you know how children grow up and how they're taught and instilled all these crazy beliefs about their identity and what job they should take, what occupation, like what career they should go down, and how to live, how to think, how to act a certain way. It brainwashes a lot of children, then adults as they get older, into thinking and living a certain way. But it's like, snapping out of that paradigm can be one of the greatest things you can ever do for yourself.
I get these people at my events, man. I get them at 45 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old at my event, and they're still dealing with shit from 7 years old, whether it was traumatic or a quick conversation somebody had that they took the wrong way, and boom, it shifted them. One line can change everything. One event can change everything. A peak emotional experience, anytime, anything that you didn't expect to happen, your brain memorizes it and it says, okay, guess that's who we are now. And if you don't have the tools, this is what I teach people, to eradicate that thing. Like I am telling you, dude, I was built for this crisis we're having come on. My brain, man, I'm built for this shit. Like this is who I am. I was meant to deal with problems. Like I'm a wartime consigliere if you've seen The Godfather. You know, I got this thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the point is, like, most people they get broken up with, they don't realize they're in control of letting that bother them for 5 minutes and moving on. Most people have no idea they control the filing system in their brain. That's a topic for another day.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back on for that one, man. What's the last send-off takeaway message you'd like to leave the Elite Man audience, and then a place our listeners can check out your work and your book?
Yeah, I tell you, that delusion you have inside of you, that feeling you have when you know that you're capable of more, and you know it's there, and I know it's there, and you kind of hide from it and ignore it. I'm just going to ask you to step into it and live into it. You may have people in your life currently that hold you back, or people in your life that you allow to hold you back, or people that, you know, you're insecure being you. The only way you're truly going to be happy and satisfied, and I know you know this, is to live out all of who you're capable of being. That's what Average Sucks is about. The brand, I own the trademark. It's really about not being what you are, but it's being what you're capable of being. So I'm just going to challenge all of you to, like, look in the mirror, look at yourself and going, am I being all that I am capable of? And if you're not, it isn't about pushing harder. It's about getting honest with yourself. Because if you're capable of more, as soon as you admit that to yourself, you may not get it tomorrow, but that's where opportunity shows up. And you can find it all, man. AverageSucks.com. You can go to the website, find out, you know, we're going to be in almost all outlets, Amazon, BN, whatever it is you want to get the book. And, you know, you can also just reach out to us. I mean, I don't know what you want me to recommend right now, but get the book, man. It's a gorgeous book, easy read, and it'll be one that you're going to recommend for years to come.
Love it. Michael, thanks again for coming on, brother. Really do appreciate it. Guys, make sure you check out the book, AverageSucks.com. And, yeah, we'll have to bring you back on, man. This has been such an awesome interview. So take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, my man. Thank you.
As a reminder, join our newsletter at elitemanmagazine.com/newsletter. There's a lot of crazy things going on, a lot of chaos happening in the world. The one thing I don't want you to miss out on is the incredible information that we provide here at Elite Man Podcast, on the videos, on everything else that we try to give you the best information on. Keep your family safe, keep yourself safe, keep everybody healthy, and don't miss out on any of this information. If somebody just randomly decides to take us down one day, you'll still get it if you're on the newsletter, elitemanmagazine.com/newsletter. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. But before you go, there's one last thing I'd like you to do, and that's this. Subscribe to our podcast right now if you haven't already. By subscribing to the podcast, you get every single episode the minute they're released. Get all of our Elite Man podcast episodes and all of our world-class advice absolutely free. Subscribe now if you haven't already and become an Elite Man today. And yes, if you do love the podcast, leave us an amazing review. We really do appreciate it.